So today we're going to learn about simplifying rational expressions. Now, rational expressions is another way of saying a fraction, and simplifying rational expressions is another way of saying reducing fractions. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's do a quick example. If I want to simplify 6 over 8, you're going to say, oh, that's easy, it's 3/4. But what you're really doing is saying this is 3 times 2 over 4 times 2. And then what I can do is I can simplify 2 over 2. They cancel out. And I can end with it equals 3 over 4. So we're going to simplify things and cancel them out today. So let's look at first with factoring a couple expressions here. So my first one says 2x plus 8. And I'm going to say that equals 2 times x plus 4. And then I have x squared plus x minus 12. I'm going to factor that, so it says x plus 4 times x minus 3. And I will check my middle term. 4x minus 3x gives me a positive x, so that works out well. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify this rational expression because now it's all put together. And the first thing I'll do is factor. So this we said was 2 times x plus 4, and the bottom was x plus 4 times x minus 3. And when I look at that, I can now see that this whole thing, this whole expression in the parenthesis is the exact same on the top and the bottom, so I can cross that out. And what's left is 2 over x minus 3. So that is the simplified version of the expression. Now, one thing we want to be careful of is we can never have a 0 in the denominator. So if I look at my original denominator, I have x squared plus x minus 12, which became x plus 4 times x minus 3. So these two expressions, x plus 4 and x minus 3, when I multiply them, I can never have them equal 0. So if I set them each separately equal to 0, x cannot be negative 4, and x cannot be positive 3. So my restrictions are that this is a simplified expression as long as x is not equal to negative 4 or 3. That's my restriction on my equation, on my expression. So let's do a couple practice problems here. First practice problem we have is we're going to simplify 3n minus 15 over 12. So let's take a look at this. This is really fairly easy. I'm going to take out the greatest common factor. So I have 3 times n minus 15 over 12. And can I simplify 3 over 12? I can. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 12 4 times. So this will simplify to n minus 15 over 4. Now, I had parentheses on the top. I don't have them in my final answer. When I have more than one factor, I will include my parentheses. If it's one expression on its own, I don't need the parentheses. So let's look at the next one. Next one says 12t to the 8th over 36t to the 6th. Well, let's look at my numbers. Okay, so we're going to look at my numbers here. 12 over 36. Well, if I divide them both by 12, I get 1 over 3. Now if I look at my variables here, I have t to the 8th over t to the 6th. And remember, when I'm dividing t to the 8th over t to the 6th, I keep my base and I subtract my exponents. 8 minus 6 would be 2. So then I'm going to put that into my equation or my expression. So it's 1 times t squared over 3. And I can just simplify that to say t squared over 3. Okay? So let's do my next one. Again, we're going to use a lot of factoring here. So my top says, my numerator says y plus 2. Well, I can't factor y plus 2 anymore, so I'm just going to leave it y plus 2. I'm going to add parentheses just in case I can factor something out or I can cancel something out. And my bottom, y squared minus 4, I have to recognize that as the difference of squares. So that is y plus 2 times y minus 2. And when I have those two pieces, and if I take a look at it now, I have a y plus 2 expression on top and bottom, so I am going to factor that out, and I have 1 over y minus 2. Now let's go back and take a look at a couple things. I did not list my restrictions here, and I need to do that. So my restrictions for my first one, are there any restrictions on the first one? Well, I don't have any variables on my first one, so I don't have any restrictions. Do I have any restrictions on my second one? Well, I have a variable of t in the denominator. So even though I simplified this to be t squared minus 3, t is not allowed to be equal to 0. There's my restriction, because in my original equation, I have t to the 6 in the denominator. Now in this second one that we just did, I simplified it to be 1 over y minus 2. But I have to go back to my original expression before I canceled things out, and I have y plus 2 times y minus 2, and that cannot be equal to 0. So if y is negative 2, it's going to make it 0, and if y is positive 2, it's going to make it 0. So my restriction is that y cannot equal 2 or negative 2. So I have an answer when I reduce it, but I also have to state the exclusion that I'm not allowed to have y equal those values. Now let's take a look at my next one. My next one, I have 5x squared plus x minus 6 over x squared minus 1. So let me do the bottom first, because that's a little easier. I see a difference of squares here. So it's going to be x plus 1 over x minus 1. And then I have to take a look at my top and factor the top. And this is going to turn out to be 5x times x. And it's going to be plus 6 and minus 1. So if I look here, I want to check my middle term. 6x minus 5x gives me a positive x, so I'm good. So let's take a look at my denominator with my restrictions before I cancel things out. I can't have x plus 1 equal to 0, and I can't have x minus 1 equal to 0. So x cannot equal negative 1 or 1. So there's my restrictions just from my original factoring. So now I'm going to see if I can cancel things out. Well, I have an x minus 1 on the top and the bottom. I'm canceling that out. So I have 5x plus 6 over x plus 1. And then I'm done. So let's take a look at a word problem here. We have the area of a rectangle is x squared plus 6x minus 16. And we know that the width of the rectangle is x minus 2. So we need to find the length. So we're going to say that area is length times width, and my area is x squared plus 6x minus 16 is equal to something for my length times my width of my w minus 2, and sorry, that should be x minus 2. X minus 2. So now I have to figure out my remaining factor. Well, let's look here, the first one. X squared has to be x times x. And negative 2 times something has to give me 16, so I'm going to say that's going to be positive 8. And let's check our middle term. 8x minus 2x does give me a positive 6x. So just by plugging in my missing factor, I can find that my length is going to be x plus 8. Okay, so that's just simplifying rational expressions.